We need to have a serious talk staying sane. We need to talk about Steve Hoca and where his channel is going. Because right now I'm sitting on the fence with Hoca. I don't know whether he's doing more harm than good. I have to admit that Hoca's content has improved in recent times because he's bringing other people into the conversation during his live streams. And these other guys offer a different perspective on things. So now we're getting some fresh ideas and hearing different points of view, instead of Hoca and Bill Greathouse regurgitating the same old nonsense. But even so, I think Hoca's channel is like a vortex of negativity that sucks in anyone who comes too close. And once people get sucked into that vortex, there's no turning back. There's no coming out of that vortex with your soul intact. I think Hoca's audience are attracted to the darkness and the morbidity that emanates from Hoca and his sidekick Bill Farthouse. Every time I think of Steve Hoca, I visualise the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, and I hear that theme music playing in my head. Now the problem with you staying sane is that you think the primary cause of TFL is low status. You think that low status guys can't get girls. And you seem to judge people based on what they do for a living. You're an elitist. And what do you do that's so great, staying sane? You're a pharmacist. Whoopee! I don't know one man who idealises that job or thinks it's anything prestigious. But that's what you think makes you so high and mighty that you can look down on everyone else, isn't it, staying sane? The fact that you're a pharmacist. You need to get off your high horse. You're not a medical doctor. You were probably too stupid to become a medical doctor, and that's why you rag on other people for what they do for a living. Because you're so insecure in yourself that you couldn't make it in the field that you aspired to. And you insist that these TFLers are low status because they have blue collar jobs, and that makes them losers in your eyes. So tell me this then, staying sane. If you're a pharmacist and you're a self-confessed TFLer, or at least you were TFL at one point in your life, you've admitted to that, then what does that say about you, you piece of shit? If you had such a good job, then why were you TFL? What was it about you? And you think that being a pharmacist gives you the right to look down on all these TFLers when you were in their position once. And the thing about these TFLers staying sane is that you've probably already realised this, but most of them were raised by single mothers. That's a common thread among TFLers. I bet if you were to go into one of Hoca's live streams on any given day, I would say at least 50% of the people listening into his stream, maybe even closer to 75%, were raised by single mothers. And that percentage is probably even higher for African Americans who are TFL. And that's why these guys lack masculinity and can't get a woman. And I know this because it's something I've observed with the TFLers that I've met in real life. They were raised by single mothers, and that's why they're not comfortable in their masculine role. Because the only example they had to follow growing up was a woman. Even Hoca himself was raised by a single mother. Fatherlessness is at least partially responsible for the rise of TFL, but you and Hoca won't acknowledge it. Why won't you acknowledge it, staying sane? Because then you'd have to admit that you lack masculinity yourself, and that's the most painful thing for a man to admit. It's kind of like admitting that you have a small dick. I mean, who's going to own up to that? If these guys would learn how to take ownership of their masculinity and stop apologising for it, then their situation with women would improve. We already have a crisis of masculinity in our society, and yet all we hear about in the mainstream media is toxic masculinity. Guys are already lacking masculinity, and now they're being beaten over the head with this toxic masculinity garbage. Well, let me tell you something, staying sane. Masculinity is the solution to the problem, not the problem itself. Society is already too feminized. That's why the world is becoming so fucked up. Well, I'm going to end it there. So if you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, then consider giving it a thumbs down or telling me to go fuck myself or whatever you feel is appropriate. Thanks.